Welcome, everybody. Glad if you could join us. We know it's aperitivo time, so we are very happy that you're here with us. We are very lucky tonight on, yes, great, Colin, that's the mood we're looking for. We are here on the 60 Hour Shakespeare YouTube channel with an incredible Shakespearean actor, and we're so excited about him, Colin Hurley. Thank you so much for being with us. Before we start the interview and Q&A with Colin, just bear in mind, you all that you're watching us, that this is a series of live interviews and Q&As with relevant figures of the industry and especially, of course, of Shakespearean and Elizabethan theater. So bear with us, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just hitting the subscribe button is really easy. Teenagers do that, so no excuse for that. And of course, since Colin is gonna be our incredible Lord Capulet in the upcoming production of Romeo and Juliet 2021, subscribe to the live performance on the link that you find in the description box there below. So without further ado, let's begin. So first of all, Colin, thank you so much for two things, basically. First of all, being with us tonight, of course, but most importantly, you have decided, you that are an experienced actor, a professional actor, to join us in this adventure, which we know comes in a moment that is very weird for actors and very weird in general. So we absolutely appreciate that. I know I'm speaking on behalf of the whole cast and the director and the producer, Gavin Lee and Charlotte Klein. So thank you so much for believing in Romeo and Juliet and for deciding to give us your talent and your experience and taking up the role of Lord Capulet. So I have a first question for you on this note. Then we will talk, because I don't really need to introduce you, because I know you are a famous Shakespearean actor. So I don't really think that our audience needs to know that, because you are an actor that worked with the Royal Shakespeare Company, the Globe Theatre, the National Theatre. I mean, these are names that make us stay in awe in front of you. So I'm just wanting to go straight into the questions, but later on, if you are okay with that, we will speak about your experience also, because I think it's going to be very educational for all the young actors, wannabe actors, actors in training that want to follow on your footsteps. But first of all, I just want to ask, how does it feel for you to be back on stage after the long break from live theater that was imposed by the pandemic situation? Even though we know the pandemic, unfortunately, is not over yet, but still now we are allowed to perform live, which is, I think, important. And so I want to know your feeling about being back on a stage in person.
Yes, I don't know how it feels yet, because we haven't done it. But I'm very excited. Just the idea of, being in the same space as some fellow actors. That's it's been a year now, and I've kept myself busy. I've done lots and lots of stuff online. I've taught online. I've done lots of. I've got some very motivated friends who've done loads of work online, so I've kind of piggybacked on their energy. It's just dusting off the cobwebs as well will be interesting. I've started doing a little bit of remedial work on my voice, just a bit of humming and a bit of breathing and stuff, just trying to get match fit. I mean, you can't get match fit until you're out there doing performances, but you can make sure you don't make a fool of yourself, perhaps.
You won't, for sure. We know that. So
well, let's wait and see, shall we? That has to be a risk always. If it was totally safe, then why would you do it?
Yeah, I totally agree what you mean. I would like to know, how has this global situation affected you as an actor? Because I personally know, and I know that many actors have felt really lost at the very beginning. But eventually, for example, our experience with 60 Hour Shakespeare has been, let's try and make the most out of it by jumping on these new Zoom theater situation and try and see what happens. And it's a trial and error process, because that has never been done before, actually. So I would like to know, how did you cope with the situation, and which were like the remedies you decided to put on in order to overcome the sadness of not being able to perform live?
Yeah, well, I was in a play at the time when the theatres closed down. I was in a production of Taming of the Shrew in the Wanamaker Playhouse, and suddenly we weren't allowed in the theatre, so we just stopped.
Yeah.
The result of that was I got paid for 4 weeks, for not doing a play. People might think it's worth paying me not to be in plays more often, perhaps. We'll see. Then, I mean, financially, the government coughed up. They gave income support to self-employed people, and so I managed to survive and feed my family on that,
which is important, of course.
Yes. The first couple of months, the first lockdown, I was like the Duracell bunny. I was out on my bike, I was exercising, I was working on all sorts of things, keeping busy. And then collapsed a bit, and got very busy with home life. I've got my youngest kid's only 11, so I was trying to make him learn, and got 2 teenagers as well, trying to make them be human and communicate now and then. So it was a busy old time. As I said before, I got involved with all sorts of projects. There was a bunch of Americans ran a project called Shakespeare's Happy Hour, and they decided they were going to do the first reading of every single one of Shakespeare's plays, starting with the last one and working all the way back to the first one, as much as you can. Americans, loads of Americans, but some English mates as well. So that was my first encounter really with the whole kind of global community that's become very strong now. And then there was there's the show must go online.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
they did some great stuff. Did you work with them?
Yeah, with Rob Miles. I did Winter's Tale.
Oh, beautiful! One of my favorites.
Yeah,
Tale, yeah.
That was a fun project, and then a group led, more or less led by a lad called Ben Crystal, who I've known for years. His dad is Professor David Crystal, and Ben and David they've worked on Shakespeare all their lives, and they're responsible for the book, Shakespeare's Words. If you're having to look stuff up, you go to this book, Shakespeare's Words. And he was curating this fantastic project based on Twelfth Night. They got 8 actors together, and each actor had a pair of outside eyes, a little mini director, and they just devised a piece based on one of the characters from Twelfth Night, but in isolation.
Ooh, wow, that's really cool. Which character were you working on?
Sorry?
Which character were you working on?
Oh, Malvolio.
Oh, Malvolio, that's a good one. That's a very good one.
The cell, and he was just, trying not to go mad, really. And then what they did was they broadcast it 3 times one day, but all simultaneously. And there were people in India, people in America, people here, people in Europe. And what you could do was, it was like a promenade, like a virtual promenade. You could just click onto Malvolio, then click onto Olivia, and everyone was doing something different. But we were all united by a beautiful soundtrack. But this wonderful folk songs and an accordion playing that just sounded like the sea was just next door. And that was quite an extraordinary experience, being totally isolated and yet being in sync with all these people around the world. So there were lots of gifts in the year. And then also, once the drama schools managed to do something, they taught online. So I sometimes work at a place called Rose Bruford, and they have a foundation course, and quite often I'll go and work with them for a month. And I thought, well, that won't happen this year, but it did. But it all happened online. So that was a fantastic learning curve. I mean, I've learned about Zoom, I've learned about Microsoft Office thingy, and that people are trying to get me on Jitsi and things like that, but that's a step too far, I think. I'm a 20th century boy, and I'm only going to be here a few more years, so I'm not going to learn everything.
Well, I do understand you, because I'm not so technology savvy either. So I do understand, but I totally feel you when you say that it's been a year of learning a lot, because I think it's the first time we all have busy lives with several things going on, and all of a sudden we were just like stopped. And so we had to fill our lives with something different. And this is something different for many people has been learning new skills, learning new things, either because you were forced, like people have been forced to do a lot of at-home job, working from home, so learning to use Zoom for meetings or other platforms for other things, but also for fun, like, okay, let's take this time in which we are forced to stay at home just to enrich ourselves instead of just being desperate, because the situation was already desperate enough. So I totally understand what you mean.
Yes,
Yeah,
and made lots of different kinds of friends as well.
yeah, that was one of the most important things, I think. And that's something that I experienced myself with the 60-hour Shakespeare situation, because that's what we've been doing since pandemic started, basically. Zoom performances with people from all around the world. Like we had people from Russia, from the States, from Britain, from Italy, where I come myself. So yes, that was, I mean, I cannot say it was great, because how can you say a pandemic is great? But it was a way to find something positive in a very negative situation. So I totally understand what you mean.
Yes, I will never in my life have as much time with my children again. Wasn't all pleasant, but still time. And at first I was complaining. People said, oh, quality time. Oh, and I was going, this is not quality time. But in fact, quantity time is a good thing as well for families.
Yeah, I totally understand that. And this is precious. And I think it's very important to point it out, because it's something we tend to forget about, like spending time with our loved ones, even though it's enforced time, like we need to stay at home and we complain about it. But on the other hand, it's something I experienced with my parents, for example, like having time with them. It's time that no one is giving me back, this time with them, and it's precious. So I totally understand what you mean. And thank you for mentioning it, because I think it's very important. So let's move a little bit from the pandemic to the core of what we're doing here, 60-hour Shakespeare. So the name of the company, I think it's self-explanatory, because it's 60-hour. It basically means that we set up a play, rehearse, and perform over 60-hour time. So I would like to know, first of all, if you have ever done something similar or something like that. And second, what you feel about this rehearsal process and this philosophy. Like we know that our artistic director, Gavin Lee, took a mild inspiration from the time that Shakespeare and his actors actually had at the time to rehearse and perform their plays. And yeah, we would like to know your opinion about this whole thing of the 60 hours.
Yes, I think it's great. It's as you say, Gavin's basically kind of gone with the little we know about Elizabethan original practices. And a lot of what's shaped me over the last decade, more than that now, decade and a half, is working at the Globe, which is there's a wonderful experimental theatre where they thought, hang on, if we recreate as much as we can the kind of space these plays were written for, what do we learn? And there's loads of stuff there. And I've become a big fan of less rehearsal. I don't rehearse well. But parallel with the Globe and doing some original practices there, and occasionally working with cue scripts and things like that, where you're just given your lines and the 3 words before your speech, which is just mental. Really mental.
It is mental. I cannot even imagine that.
Oh, well, but fun. But fun as long as you don't put a lot of pressure on yourselves. But in parallel with that, I was working with another group of mates called The Factory. And this was a bunch of actors who decided they were just going to workshop. And they teamed up with my favorite director in the whole universe, a man called Tim Carroll. And they started working on Hamlet. And he'd done a version in Hungary with a wonderful company there. And the game, if you like, 'cause it's always a game. The game was you learn more than one part, and then you don't know what part you're going to play. I mean, it's been done a lot since, but the fact, Tim Carroll was doing it a long time before it was kind of the thing to do. So you learn as many parts as you can. Then the audience, you choose a champion, and then an audience member will play rock, paper, scissors on your behalf. And then you either play Hamlet or a messenger, or Claudius or Polonius or Ophelia or whatever.
That's very intriguing.
So it's straight away, and we didn't rehearse in the normal sense at all. You learnt your lines, and we'd drill verse exercises. We do this thing for hours on end, where it's a tennis ball exercise. A lot of people do it now, but basically to make sure that the line endings for the verse are absolutely in your bones, in your boots, in your body. It has to be a physical thing. Otherwise, it's all a bit, oh yes, I understand. It needs to be, oh, here in the body. And so you throw a tennis ball up, and then you'd catch it on the first stressed syllable of a line, and then you'd at the end of the line, and that kind of energizes the end of the line. Quite often, at the end of a verse line is a really good word anyway. But if someone just says stress the last line of the last word of the line, that's kind of, I don't want to do that. But if you're practicing and I catch it and I hold it till I throw, I catch it and I hold it till I throw. To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, and then that does most of the work for you. So physical stuff like that. We got a fixed point. The fixed point is the text. You learn the lines, and I swear, if you got a word wrong, Tim Carroll will be down on you like a ton of bricks. Why are you saying that? Written? Yeah. So that's the fixed point. But then the fluid point was you don't know what part you're going to play. You don't know who's going to be playing opposite you. And the audience brought the props.
Wow.
Plus,
that's more than fascinating.
Yeah, and you didn't know. All you do is like if you go, I have a letter, my lord. You would say, I have a letter, my lord. You'd put your hand out, and whoever in the audience was nearest would put whatever prop they had in your hand. Now, I'll tell you something for nothing. It was hardly ever a piece of paper with the word letter. But now then, so there's lots of comic potential there, and you can take the mick, and it can be funny and that. But again, there was a rigor to it. And it was insisted on by the company style was you make, if it's a rubber duck, then you make that rubber duck into a message. How can a rubber duck be actually, a letter to Ophelia? And so the struggle to try and make this metaphor in the moment, if you like. So you're improvising, but with this fantastic fixed point of the text. And then, these wonderful act breaks that you get because the candles used to run out or whatever. At the end of each act, we'd have an MC. We'd have like a master of ceremonies who at the end of each act would change the rules. And he might say, okay, if you're speaking, you're not allowed to be on the ground.
Oh, okay.
Or, if you've got to overlap, or give you little secrets to do, all sorts of things. So there were millions of games going on, but at the same time, all we were doing was solving problems, saying our words, solving problems. And there's nothing more exciting than that to watch or to do.
Definitely, but I'm also thinking about the audience feeling so involved in the play, because usually, of course, the normal relationship, like let's say the classic relationship between audience and actors is audience sits and applauds, and actors do. But having this kind of interaction, being involved in the making of, must be extremely exciting, such an experience. And also in Elizabethan time, we know that the audience was way more involved than it is now in theater, because we know that they were like booing at the villain, or they were cheering at the hero, etc., etc. I think there were even, I don't know if this may be a legend, but they were even allowed to throw stuff on the stage if they didn't like a particular character or situation. I don't know that, but there's this legend.
We're not sure how much actually got thrown, but Mark Rylance, the wonderful Mark Rylance, did actually get thrown at him one night. But it was during a celebration of Shakespeare's birthday. They used to have these wonderful festivals at the Globe, and an incredible bloke called Ken Campbell, were just like created magic and madness all over the place. He was allowed to run one of these evenings. He persuaded Mark to come and do a speech, and someone chucked an apple during our greatest living actors' greatest living moments. But I think it was for a laugh.
Very interesting.
So the question is, I'm all for it. You do as much preparation as you can, and then you see what's in front of you and work with what's in front of you. So when I'm working with young students, I'll always say there is no wrong, and I'll say no retreat, no surrender.
I like this. I'm taking notes. No retreat, no surrender. I love it. It's gonna be my mantra from now on.
So you can just watch it again. It'll be fine.
Yeah, love it. I love it. So let's move on to the core of the thing, which is, of course, Romeo and Juliet, because that's what we were doing, Romeo and Juliet. So I would like to know something about your previous experiences playing Romeo and Juliet, like which characters or which situations, what have you done, Verona, but not too gentleman related?
I've never played Romeo and never played what have I done? Oh, I did a week-long workshop at the Globe, at the education department, which we'll talk about later, I hope.
Yes, please.
They ran a whole series of workshops. They paid a group of actors to just kind of work scenes, and they recorded it and put it out as a DVD, I think. But I played Capulet then. This is like 10 years ago, whatever. But that was fun. And we were just yes, I know, when I was young.
You are young. Come on.
Again, the education department, they put on their own production once a year, sponsored by Deutsche Bank, I should say. They put on a project called Playing Shakespeare, where they employ a group of professional actors to do a 90-minute version of a Shakespeare play. And then they invite all the secondary schools of London to come and see it. So you do about 2 weeks of performances, and in the afternoons, it's 1,600 teenagers in there.
What? That's also a lot of teenagers.
they go, which schools have children in those schools who've never been to the theatre? Let's get them in. So it's a pretty bumpy ride, I have to tell you.
I don't doubt it. Wow. Oh my God.
But then the reward, you see, I want to have a chat with them before they do the next one, because when you've got 1,600 school kids in there, and they're from different schools, and there are rivalries, you know, it's all a bit Montague and Capulet sometimes. Oh, your school, we're going to fight you or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
I think it can slip over into chaos a bit too much. But in the evenings, they do a brilliant thing where they allow some members of the public in as well. And the balance then is blissful, because you've got all that youthful energy, which you would die to have that in every theatre. It's wonderful, but there's a little containment as well. It's how society works. You know, if you haven't got some older people there and some, and some rules, then all the boys, the teenage boys, will kill each other. They'll all be dead. So they just need a little bit of pulling in. You don't want to squash the energy. You just want to make sure that they don't do anything too stupid.
Yeah. Because otherwise it becomes like a football match,
Yeah.
Montagues versus Capulets. Woo. Yeah, I get what you mean. Yeah, totally.
I was lucky enough to play Friar Lawrence in that and loved it. Loved playing Friar Lawrence.
And that's an interesting part, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. And then in February this year, I mentioned I was working with some students from Rose Bruford.
Yes.
And did Romeo and Juliet then online, but not a reading. They were fantastic, because the only way to address it really is a lot. All the monologues were like video diaries.
Oh my God, beautiful.
And we had some terrific people with quite experienced with fighting and moving and
right.
that. So we had very mobile cameras whenever we could. So what we lost in terms of just being in a space together, they more than made up for with a real documentary feel almost.
Wow, incredible.
Yeah, they really pulled all the stops out.
That's Amazing. And I want to ask you, since so you have a lot of experience with Romeo and Juliet, which are, in your opinion, the aspects of the story and of the play in general, of the writing of the characters that are most fascinating? I mean, to you and in general to an audience, which are the tropes or the topics that you think are what make this play so iconic? Because let's face it, it's the most probably iconic Shakespeare's play on the even on the eyes of people that don't know Shakespeare much. They know Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah, well, there's so much, isn't it? There's so much to dig into.
There's so much, yes.
But first of all, it wasn't Shakespeare's story. He nicked it. You know, he didn't invent the story.
Yeah.
He went, but I know, I'll write a play about that. You know, other people have. Now I will. And the opening prologue is just the ultimate spoiler, isn't it?
I know, but it's so iconic. It's my passion, literally my passion in Fair Verona, and I feel like, oh my God, yes.
I saw a play called The Front Line a few years back, and there was a brilliant bit in there. It opened with a big fight. So teenage gangs. It was, you know, contemporary play. These teenage gangs fighting these lads, and then they froze in mid-fight, and there was a guy on stage selling hot dogs, and then he moved forward, and he just pointed to one of the actors, and he said, "You see him? He'll be dead in 2 hours."
Wow.
He said, "Know why they're fighting? So they can touch each other." And it was just, you just kind of went, oh, that's, you know, it was Romeo and Juliet in some, you know, the elements of Romeo and Juliet in that.
Definitely.
The star-crossed lovers is fantastic. You kind of go, really? It was all decided before? They couldn't have got out of it? I mean, I've got, like I said, I've got teenagers. I've got a 25-year-old who has survived his puberty and all that. But sometimes you do think it's going to be, if you get through to your 30s alive, it is going to be a miracle.
Yeah, I know.
The little brain, isn't there, that doesn't develop, that doesn't, you know, the risk assessment, why you have to get soldiers young. They don't assess risk, and they don't understand about danger in the way that like, someone who's in his 60s does. Yeah, I'm very careful. Thank you very much. Let's just take it easy. No, nothing stupid, nothing rushed. And so that energy is very exciting to behold, of course. In Shakespeare's day, it was a problem, same as it is now. There were these tearaways going around, and they didn't have guns, they didn't have knives, they had these big, long, sharp, pointy things called swords. It was a problem, always has been. And what do you do with that energy? How can you direct them? Something I do find fascinating is in Shakespeare's day, I mean, like this play ends in a double suicide. Okay, yeah. Sorry if you didn't know the story, but yeah, you know, he kills himself, she kills herself.
Yeah.
Now, in Shakespeare's day, suicide wasn't a word. You know, that was self-murder, and it was a crime against the state and a sin against God. And if you did that, if you self-murdered yourself, then there wasn't kind of any counselling or anything. They couldn't punish you, but they would punish your body, and they would punish your family. Yeah. You know, everything confiscated from the family. The corpse would be taken, wouldn't be buried in consecrated ground. None of that.
Yeah, of course.
Preferably to a crossroads, buried naked, and then get this: a stake through the heart. The whole vampire treatment. Okay, so any kind of celebration or contemplation of self-murder is seditious. It's against the state. It's don't do that. Don't talk about that. You'll get into trouble. And yet Shakespeare writes a play, and at the end of the play, these two lovers, they've killed themselves, and these two very respectable, very prestigious families come together, these powerful families, and say, let's build a golden statue in their honor. Now, this brings me to Colin's little theory, which is why Shakespeare set so many of his plays either way in the past or abroad. Please share with us. It's a disclaimer, isn't it? Because like if the Master of Rebels, the censor, comes around and says, they committed suicide, they're building a statue, that's that. Right, you're gonna have your hands chopped off. Yeah. You go, no, it's those Italians. You know what they're like.
Italians do this kind of thing. They like romantic, angsty relationships. So that's why they build golden statues. I agree.
So,
I could
or
agree
it's
more.
abroad for all its history. And it can get away with all sorts of things because it's, oh no, I'm not talking about you, Your Majesty. I'm talking about those other kings and queens.
Yeah, of course. I'm talking about Italians. You know them, right? Oh yeah, I know them. So we're fine. Yes. Totally makes sense. Yeah, that's very interesting. And I totally agree with you when you talked about the energy of adolescence. Like, I think one of the reasons why this play is so loved, even by the younger generations who don't even know who Shakespeare is, or maybe they know, but sure, they don't care. Not only young people, but some young people don't care about Shakespeare, let's not lie. But Romeo and Juliet is appealing to them all because it's a story about how adolescents think and feel, or their lives. Maybe they don't commit suicide, hopefully, of course. But the kind of passion and the kind of, madness of that age is so well expressed, and it's so relatable to people of any era and any situation, which brings us, I think, to the next question. That is, I would like to know if you think that Shakespeare plays, not only Romeo and Juliet, because we said Romeo and Juliet is, but Shakespeare plays in general can be still attractive to modern audiences, also to people that are not interested maybe in theater or in Shakespeare, also because we're using an Elizabethan English, which is not super accessible to an average person or to an average young person. And which are the challenges that actors and directors face in making these plays speak to younger generations?
Yeah, obviously, I mean, it's weird because I find myself, sort of in the last bit of my life, having done Shakespeare all my life.
I know.
So much of my career is doing Shakespeare plays. I have never been a big, oh my God, I love Shakespeare kind of person at all. I keep meeting people who are passionate about Shakespeare, passionate about him. And I just have to kind of sit there and go, oh, nice. But it's what I've done for a living for years. So some of it is rubbed off. And there's something about the way that his plays work on so many levels. You can be there and excited by the sword fights. You can think, whoa, that's sexy. Oh God, go on, get together, you two. Oh, please. Oh no, they didn't. Oh, they should have. Oh, don't take the poison. Oh, it's too late. Yeah, all that stuff. That it works on that level, and then it works on so many other levels. A friend of mine spoke about alchemy in Romeo and Juliet. What, alchemy? He said, yeah. Early in the play, Romeo says, I have a soul of lead. I have a soul of lead. And at the end of the play, there's a statue of gold, lead to gold. So there's stuff like that in there. The number of times that Romeo mentions love and mentions death in the same sentence.
Oh,
the boy cannot love without talking about death or killing or something. Even kill the envious moon. Oh, shut up. Right. And it's like Beetlejuice. If you say Beetlejuice 3 times, he'll turn up. So in a way, it is inevitable because the boy just brought it on himself. I think it has a lot to say in human terms. We keep reading these tragic stories about kids who just live in the wrong environment, who end up they were on the wrong street, they got stabbed. They weren't violent, necessarily gang members themselves, but they're in that water. And you get that feeling about Romeo as well. He's quite happy to make peace with Tybalt. He's quite happy to just go, no, it's okay. But there's no avoiding it. Tybalt is going to fight, and it kills Romeo's best mate. Suddenly, Mr. Peaceful can't control himself, and then on. So that it says a lot about our environment and about what victims we all can be. We can take responsibility for our actions, but there are things that are going to happen that you cannot control. even if you're a friar and think you're so clever. And
especially if you're a friar, apparently.
Fine, yeah. Or if you're a dad and go, oh, you're going to marry him and it'll be brilliant because he's fantastic, Mr. Paris. Yeah. And poor old dad, he's got one daughter and she won't do what he tells him. That's horrible, that is. I mean, I know how I feel when my sons, which is very often, about 5 times a day, don't do what I ask them to do. I don't even tell them anymore now. It's pointless. So I worked with a director once. I was auditioning for Capulet, but I didn't get the part. I didn't want it really. But we had this 40-minute workshop. And at one point, this director, a wonderful director called Neil Bartlett, I know people keep saying, why is Capulet so angry? It's like they've never been a father. To be a father, he said, I remember my father. To be a father is to be in a constant state of rage. That's what being a father is. And I thought, yeah, you've got a point there, mister. Yeah.
That's absolutely right. I totally agree. And I think my father agrees as well. I will ask him after the interview how he feels about it, but I think he will agree with you. Totally. So we know, as people who work and are together in a company, in an acting company, we know of a lot of people nowadays willing to be actors. And we know that Shakespeare is a crucial part of the process of being an actor, especially in UK, especially in English-speaking countries. Shakespeare is a big part of the learning how to be an actor process. So since you are an experienced Shakespearean actor and you've done it for so many years in the most important Shakespearean theatre in the whole world, because of course it's the Globe of England, what's better for Shakespeare? Would you give us, and especially our young actors watching, some tips on how to approach Shakespeare when they are starting their acting studies?
Okay. First of all, I'm going to have to pick an argument with you. I think it's perfectly... I'm sorry, Laura. But, I think you can get through a whole wonderful acting career without doing any Shakespeare.
Okay.
You can. Even more so now. The Globe is more respected outside England than inside England. It's the ugly little runt of the family, really, the Globe.
Oh, I didn't know that, because, for example, in Italy, say the Globe in Stratford-upon-Avon, in London, we're like, oh, dude, that's the Globe. Oh my God, the Globe, so important. We respect the Globe so much that in Rome, we have a copy of the Globe called the Globe of Rome, and we do Shakespeare there, but with much respect. So yeah.
Well, I think there's probably too much respect going around, to be honest. I think Shakespeare works better when it's a bit rough and ready, when you go, well, let's see if it works or not. But yeah, the Globe was kind of a bit of a kind of scruffy old hippie gypsy kind of, I don't know, just not quite respectable version of Shakespeare. And in England, there was a lot of fear that it was going to be Disney Shakespeare because it was an American. It took an American to get the place built, the wonderful Sam maker. And then when with the first artistic director, Mark Rylance, he has such a unique worldview and way of doing things. It became a fantastic. There was nothing was taken for granted anymore. I've worked with the Royal Shakespeare Company and I've admired the Royal Shakespeare Company and the National Theatre for years. But you get certain fashions and certain trends and things get set. And there was a period with there's a wonderful actor called Alan Howard, who did all the leading roles with the Royal Shakespeare Company for several years. And he became the master of a really badly designed theatre. The Royal Shakespeare main house was a beast to work, and you had to have a huge amount of vocal attack and technique to be able to reach the 2,000 people or whoever, and right at the back on the third gallery or whatever. And he could do that. and he did it by placing the voice in a particular, it's very much a mask of the face voice, and it would cut through, and he had incredible intelligence. He was a brilliant actor. And then what happens when someone brilliantly manages a space is that people copy them, and they always copy the wrong bit.
Oh.
They always copy the mannerism rather than the spirit, so you've got actors with metallic voices, Colin, police are here, so we are not to pay, that is out the way. And you go, okay, I can hear you, but I don't believe you. That's a gross oversimplification, because there are brilliant actors doing wonderful stuff as well. But an overriding style for a while became very, very intellectual, and you couldn't really feel much. You're very impressed, but you weren't necessarily always moved. Again, I'll get shot down for saying that, but
but I agree with you, because it happens the same with like the ancient, like Greek or Roman theater. It's kind of the same situation. You think you have to be emphatic and over the top to align to what was written by Aeschylus, for example. Well, if you read an Aeschylus text, it's so modern that you could literally play it as if we were having a Zoom conversation, like Agamemnon and Clytemnestra. They could talk over Zoom because the text is so modern. So I totally understand what you mean.
Yes, and what happened, the distortion happened because this very speakable, very conversational text, very wonderfully written text, was put in a space where it couldn't survive.
Yeah.
All the amazing work at the Royal Shakespeare in Stratford for a while was happening in the studio.
Yeah.
And that's no accident. It was happening in the studio because the studio was a human space. And the Globe, when the Globe opened, luckily it was led by an actor rather than a director. So he was finding actors' solutions to the space. The Globe holds 1,700 people, but instead of it being in an auditorium that spreads back, the Olivier Theatre at the National, if you're on the back row, you're in a separate county to the actor on stage. But in the Globe, you're not that far away because it's like a drum, and it's a space to be human. It's not a space to show off. Yeah. And so the voice has changed, and the fact that the audience are all the way around, it became three-dimensional again. And it was, it's inclusive. It's the most inclusive space I've ever been in. You don't need to put extensions on the stage. You're already right there together in shared daylight or shared floodlight in the evenings, and the audience. When you I've said this a few times before. It's just the only way I can think of saying it. It's like when you go to buy to see a show at the Globe. When you buy your ticket for the Globe, it's like a Willy Wonka magic ticket. It makes you witty. You get the jokes. All that stuff that we studied at school, and we go, I don't understand that. And then at the bottom we go, humorous, a pun, this is funny, a joke. You go, well, could have fooled me. In the Globe, when you're just hearing it and landing it, and you're all in the same space, it's funny. Laughter is a communal activity. And so we've really relearned, among many other things, that this is a space to share and be human. It's not a space to impress and show off. Yeah. I tried, believe me. First couple of seasons, I tried to impress people with my acting on the Globe stage, and it doesn't work. It's a place to be human and open up and share.
Yeah, I think that's very meaningful, and that's what we all needed to hear. So thank you very much. Since we are unfortunately approaching the end of our chat, unfortunately, we should make it longer. But in any case, and we promised the Q&A, I have a couple of questions from the audience, and then maybe I will ask you my last question, which I am very curious about. So we will see. But for now, let's see.
Before you do that, Lara, can I just, Alfie, have you finished The Office now, darling?
Watch one more.
No, because what's the time? What's the time? It's
12:45.
No. Can you brush your teeth and get your pajamas on now, darling, please? So multitasking, we call that.
That's great. That's what we like. Multitasking. That's what we were talking about. And we saw that he is obedient. So no need for Lord Capulet to get mad at him because he is brushing his teeth. So we're proud of him and of you.
Boy.
So the question we have from the audience is, did you always want to be an actor? And where did you go to school, if you did go to school, to acting school?
No, I was a shy little geeky kid, very uncool, grammar school boy. Did my studying at a boys' school, so I got to the age of 16 and I hadn't even spoken to a member of the opposite sex for about 5 years, 6 years, apart from my little sister who was 7 years younger than me. You know, she was stupid. And then a mate of mine who was as geeky as me, awkward, said, "Oh, Hurley, look, they're doing a school play. We're doing a school play." I says, "Yeah." And he said, "They're doing a school play with the girls' school up the road."
Oh my God, girls' school.
And there were two of them, and they said, "We're going to do it. You're going to do it." I said, "No way." And they said, "Oh, go on." I said, "No way." And they, "Go on." I said, "Well, all right then." And I went and did a school play, and two things happened there. I walked into this amazing world that was full of girls, and
that's the deal. That's a big deal.
Yeah, and they gave me attention because I found that I was, I quite enjoyed showing off on stage. And the other thing was I met a man called Paul Ward, who was a drama teacher in the girls' school. We didn't have a drama teacher. Drama wasn't a subject in my school. And this man very gently and beautifully and kindly encouraged me. I did one school play with Paul Ward and announced to him that I wanted to be an actor. I only played a tiny part, one school play. I said, "I want to be an actor." And he said, yeah, dead right. Think you should.
Wow.
Yeah. And that I needed to hear that. My poor parents, they
did not. They did not, probably.
They thought it was probably worse than going to prison to become an actor. No, Colin can't do that. He's only little and quiet. I've got two really loud extrovert brothers. If either of them had said I'm going to be an actor, my parents would have gone, "Yeah, of course you are." But little Colin, no. So that changed my life. What was the question? Advice? Yes, advice.
No, it was basically, where did you go to drama school, if you did go to drama school?
Oh, right, yes. So I did lots and lots of youth theatre, school plays, amateur dramatic societies, and I went to a drama school in Birmingham, which was at the time called the Birmingham School of Speech Training and Dramatic Art, the BSSDA, yeah. And it was in a little kind of cottage run by a lady called Pamela Chapman and her daughter, and some extraordinary characters. There was a lovely actor who'd worked with people from a previous century, from like the 1900s, and he was a clown, really, and he passed on some of that. There was another guy who specialized in playing women on radio, but always wore makeup anyway. And there was a fantastic movement. I mean, there were lost skills. They were from another world, these people.
Yes. And
of course, like all amazing, beautiful, talented people who get old, they weren't appreciated by us. Which, I mean, I look back on it and I go, thank goodness I was there for 1 year. I left after a year. I decided to go to London. And then I went to the Central School of Speech and Drama.
Which is very famous, yes.
Yeah. And that was okay. Make some friends.
So I have another question from the audience. That is, which is the last production that blew your socks off, whatever this means for the Italian here?
Right, the last production that blew my socks off, if we don't count telly, because I'm watching Line of Duty at the moment, and my socks are near my feet. But if it's not telly, then it's a bit of a cheat. But with this group, The Factory, we did a production. We have like a rolling company. It's you have a squad like a football team, but you can only pick the team on the night. But you've always got reserve things. We did a production of The Seagull.
Oh, I love The Seagull. Oh my God, one of my favorite plays ever.
Yeah, but get this: we worked on the units and the actions and the characters, but there were no lines. you made up the words each night. So each night was a new translation of the seagull. We had beats, we had, if that exchange is, I say 5 things, you say 5 things, all that stuff was there. One of our rehearsals, we just wrote letters to each other. We spent 3 hours just writing letters to each other.
Which character did you play there?
I played the brother.
Yes, okay. Yeah.
And the other thing we did was we used our real names. So I didn't play a character other than Colin.
Okay. There weren't any Mina, Constantine, Trigorin, etc.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
We used each other's real names. And
interesting.
there were nights where I turned up and I wasn't needed, and I would watch it. Now, even though I knew exactly what was going on and I had done it and performed it myself, I would watch that seagull and I would go, I just don't know how they're doing that.
Yeah, me too.
It was pure, because they were solving problems the whole time. Things go wrong, they'd solve it. You didn't know what the other person was going to say, what they were going to do. It was wonderful stuff. So that's the last thing that knocked my socks off.
Yeah. Another question for you, if you remember it, what's the funniest thing to happen to you on stage? Do you remember an especially funny situation, or?
I've got nothing. The thing I'm most embarrassed about, and it was funny for other people, that made them laugh, was this was a version of the seagull with the factory. There was a bit of a rash, if you like, out sort of the young fit actors getting naked. Ooh. So blokes with their 6 packs and their pecs and all that, would find some excuse to take their top off, or whatever. And I didn't get fed up with it, but I just thought, I want to play. So I found a reason to streak across the stage naked myself. Now, I am not buff.
Yes, Colin. Well done, Colin.
Fitted with the story, I promise you. It fitted with like the character and everything like that.
Don't doubt it.
The joy of it was that I did it, because you can't plan these things, except you get like 3 seconds. Do you know what? I was off stage. I was with my mate who was going to come on with me, and suddenly he saw me just taking my clothes off, and he went, Colin. I said, trust me, go on, let's go away. And we went on, did it. And the poor girl playing my sister just burst out laughing, as you would, And then I was gone. I came on naked, went off, said a few lines, gone. But what I love about it is she told me the next time I saw her, she said, oh, you got me into a lot of trouble, Colin. I said, what do you mean? She said, I was in bed late at night and I woke up laughing. And my partner said, what are you laughing about? She said, oh, I'm sorry, I was just laughing about Colin being naked.
Not the best thing to say to your partner when you're lying in bed together, probably.
But at least she was laughing,
Yeah, of course. That's great. That's a great story, actually. I think that our audience member is satisfied. So, one last question.
Well, not in Romeo and Juliet. I promise you that. I will not be taking my clothes off then.
Don't make promises you cannot keep. Yeah, I have one last question myself, because I was curious about it. Of course, this is a very hypothetical question, which will never be real. So just take it as it is. If you could only play 3 Shakespeare characters, like on a heavy rotation for the rest of your life, which ones would they be?
Okay. Sir Ian McKellen is playing Hamlet soon, isn't he?
He is. I know our director has tickets for that.
Okay, so I have Hamlet. King Lear, I think, probably. Fun. Falstaff, just to lighten the mood a bit.
Yeah, they're very good roles. Yeah. They're very interesting.
Because it's 2 plays. No, 3 if you count Merry Wives.
Yeah, 3. So that's great. And why? Which are the reasons? Like, what do they give you, these characters, that you would be content to play them for the rest of your life?
Hamlet's just the best written part ever. Every time someone sees Hamlet, they go, "Wow, how did the guy playing Hamlet make it seem so natural?" I'll tell you, because it's written that way.
Yeah.
I worked with name dropping. I worked with Colin first, right at the beginning of his career, and he'd just come out of drama school, and he played Hamlet at drama school. And he said the thing about Hamlet is it's such a big target you can't miss.
Wow. Yeah.
Now you won't get the whole thing, but you'll get something right. You know, you'll be the sexy Hamlet, or you'll be the intelligent Hamlet, or the witty Hamlet, or the soulful Hamlet. You know, it speaks to all of us, and there's something there for all of us.
I agree.
Yeah. Full staff, because it'd be fun. I wouldn't have to grow a beard. I've got one already.
It's just amazingly fun. Yeah. That's great. So, and King Lear?
Why not? You know, again, fathers. No, King Lear is great because he kind of covers so much ground, and there's something about finding wisdom in your poverty and madness that somehow I connect with. I kind of go, yeah, I get that. I get it. There are lots of things in Shakespeare plays and lots of characters I don't get. You know, Macbeth, there's no reason why I would play Macbeth.
Yeah.
No, I don't get it particularly. But King Lear, I recognize something in those later scenes.
Yeah, I totally get it. So we have one last question from the audience. I am afraid it's from my director. No, I'm joking. It's from the audience, but you will understand why I'm saying that. Someone wants to know what made you say yes to this production of Romeo and Juliet. So why are you with us?
Well, I'd met Gavin. We'd done a couple of workshops together, and I haven't been on stage for a year. So I thought, well, why not? Why not do something? And of course, the charity, Daisy's Dream.
Yeah.
The charity thing, you just go, you know, how could I say no, really?
Yeah, and it's such an important cause. And I take this opportunity, thank you for mentioning it, because we have a link in the description box to donate, if you can, anyone in the audience willing to donate anything to Daisy's Dream. It's a beautiful charity. They support children and those with a terminal diagnosis in their families. So it's such a great cause, and we really believe a lot in that. So if anyone can, even a little amount really makes the difference for them. And we're doing this for them. And this is something that truly speaks to our heart. And I am proud to be a part of the 60 Hour Shakespeare family, especially because their production always have this charity side that makes them even more special. So we are having fun. We are loving what we do. And on the other hand, we can help people. So what's there not to like? So Colin, thank you very much. It was a great chat. I learned so much. I had so much fun. It was the best aperitivo time I could ask for. Thank you so much for involving us in your stories. I think we can say goodbye to our audience and invite them to our Romeo and Juliet. So click on the link in the description box, donate, be with us. It's going to be a great performance. Thank you very much, Colin. See you super soon then.
Oh, yes. Bye.
Bye-bye, Colin. Ciao.